Hey, what's going on? Luke here, and we are here to do a review of round 1 of the 2021 NRL season. Now, there's quite a few upsets, however, there's quite a few people who got 8 out of 8 in their tips right. That wasn't me. I definitely didn't get that. Started off the round really weak, but I finished pretty strong. But overall, my tipping, it was pretty shit. But I will say, round 1 is usually a pretty hard one to pick because it hasn't really got too much form to go off. And I know a lot of people got 8 out of 8, so it seems weird for me to say that. But generally, round 1 is one of the harder ones to pick. I find it really hard to do bets on, that sort of stuff. But yeah, my tipping, it just wasn't great. Anyways, enough about the tipping. Let's talk about the games itself. I'm going to go through each game individually. I'm not going to do a super in-depth sort of talk through. If you want to do that, you can see it on all the footy shows. Fox Sports has got 1,000 of them. There's heaps of them on Instagram and Facebook these days. You can go on there, you can watch them break it down because there's just no way I can break it down properly. I'm not a former player. I don't have an expert opinion. I'm just going to give a couple thoughts on the game and honestly just see where things go. So the first game of the round saw the Melbourne Storm defeat the South Sydney Rabbitohs 26-18 in what ended up a sort of close finish, but it was kind of like the grand final. The Storm just started off so quick, absolutely annihilated the Rabbitohs to start off with, and then second half the Rabbitohs sort of slowly brought it back, and it was really a penalty goal that killed the momentum, but for the most part the Storm had control of it and I didn't really feel like they were ever going to lose it. However, there were times where Rabbitohs were coming back and you thought, well, if they can just snag another try, especially when Latrell scored his try, he got up celebrating and that, I was like, oh, maybe there's a possibility. But yeah, Ryan Papenhuyzen, outstanding. Jerome Hughes, Cameron Munster, all your usual suspects for the Storm. But it was interesting to see them play without Cameron Smith and play in a different style. It was so quick. And not that they weren't playing quick beforehand, but there were so many offloads. They were just looking for Munster, Hughes, and Brandon Smith around the middle, just get the ball to them and just heading through the middle. And then they'd spread it out wide. You had Addo Carr, who was very dangerous. He didn't end up scoring a try from it, but that little one where they sent him up the wing, once he gets a bit of space, he's gone. And that's why I'm so excited for the Bulldogs to have him. But he just creates stuff out of nothing. Mansour, he legit had no answers for Addo Carr. And in fact, Mansour was probably the worst player on the field. He was pretty poor. But the try that they ended up scoring, I think Papenhuyzen might have ended up scoring it, or maybe he threw the inside pass and someone else went and scored it. But it was where they just passed and went straight through the middle when there was a bit of a break going on. They put the kick out. I think Jerome Hughes ended up with it and he didn't score it. But yeah, the next play they ended up scoring. So that's the one I'm referencing in case you're wondering. But yeah, for the Rabbitohs, Latrell was really good. Jai Arrow was really good. But the rest of the side, like Damien Cook, they didn't really do too much. I thought Benji Marshall actually added a lot to that side. So it's surprising because I thought Benji was just going to sit in reserve grade, to be honest with you, or he'd be like 18th, 19th man. They didn't want to play him in reserve grade out of respect. But look, he come on, he made an impact, and it wasn't really until he came on that Rabbitohs actually looked like doing anything. So that could be interesting going forward. Benji playing in the middle seems to be the thing going forward. They want these sort of mobile 13s. They want the guys that have a bit of ball playing, bit of skill. And actually, now I think about it, the probably best way to put it is they don't want a lock there. They just want another half, another ball player, another hooker, just someone who can do a bit of ball playing. So in theory, as long as Benji's defense isn't too bad, he should be alright there. But yeah, overall, Storm were just way too good, and it honestly shocked me. I tipped the Rabbitohs. I thought they would get the job done. I thought it'd be a close game, but yeah, I thought the Rabbitohs get the job done. Storm came and blew them away, and it's definitely sent shockwaves throughout the NRL because I think people were sort of expecting Storm to fall off a little bit, just at least a little bit, and they've just shown that they're probably even better now. Next up on Friday night, we had the Newcastle Knights defeating the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs 32-16. Obviously, my Bulldogs, I tipped the Bulldogs. I actually thought they were generally going to win. I was talking about the Storm having a pretty good record starting the season, actually having a very good record, and I went against them. This time I went with my team, thinking the Bulldogs would have a good win over the Knights. Seemed to be the bogey team. Definitely wasn't the case this time. Tyson Frizzell was outstanding. Connor Watson was really good off the bench. Just the Knights in general were really good. Safidi was outstanding. David Klemmer really laid the platform. The Bulldogs for the first 30 minutes, I think they really competed. They were in front for a good majority of it. But just they ran out of gas, and a lot of it was just due to errors coming out of their own end, just inviting chances to the Knights, and the Knights definitely took advantage of that. In saying that though, the Bulldogs did have chances, and when they did have the chances, they generally scored off it. They were actually looking pretty good. Thought Kyle Flanagan was looking good. Thought the referees were a little bit dodgy. I don't know what the penalty count ended up, but it felt like it was a lot. It felt like there was 1 billion 6 to goes for the Knights, and then at the end it felt like they kind of gave some little pity ones to the Bulldogs, which generally does happen. But look, the Bulldogs were definitely not disciplined. Too much drop ball, and I think they kind of lost it themselves. But yeah, the Knights, they definitely were good, and it's scary to think the Knights have so many good players to come back into this side. However, the Bulldogs, they definitely weren't good either. They were just good in periods. The second game of Friday night saw the Parramatta Eels defeating the Brisbane Broncos in a game where the Broncos led for a majority of the game. Looked like they were going to win. I remember at halftime, I thought I had a bet on the game. Turns out I didn't confirm it. But I was rooting for the Eels, and Broncos just came out. All guns blazing. Anthony Milford was going good. Just everyone in the Broncos was really going good. Obviously, Xavier Coates ended up going off injured. There was a few other players who went off injured as well. Now I think about it, I think they ended up with like 1 or 2 players on the bench possibly. I think it was 1. But the Eels, they did come back. They did win the game. got quite lucky, got a bit fortunate. Even that try to, I think it was Gutherson, like Ferguson kicked the ball or whatever. Like there was a few controversial decisions, not controversial, but some very, very lucky decisions that went the Eels' way. And credit to them for taking advantage of it, but they did get super lucky and they did come back and they did win just by the skin of their teeth. So in a game that I thought the Eels would come out and absolutely destroy the Broncos, it didn't happen. And I think a lot of it came down to the fact that they had swapped sides from last year in terms of the halves and also the second rows had all swapped. So it was a bit of a strange move from Brad Arthur. I thought Blake Ferguson looked a lot better. Sevo, I don't know what to think about Sevo. He's so inconsistent. I honestly don't really rate Sevo that high at this point. But Ferguson seems to be back at his best. The rest of the side didn't really do too much, but the Broncos, they looked really good. But the Eels, they still came back. They got the win. They got Melbourne this week, which is going to be a tough game. But yeah, I think the Eels can play a lot better than what they did against the Broncos, and they still got the win. Now, moving on to the Saturday games, I didn't really get to watch any of them because I was at work, but I've watched some of the highlights. So just take this with a grain of salt. These are just opinions based off some of the highlights and some of the little bits I saw in my lunch breaks and stuff. So the first game of Saturday was the New Zealand Warriors defeating the Gold Coast Titans 19-6. This one I definitely was watching with a keen eye because I had a bet on the Titans. Obviously, you saw my videos. I tipped the Titans. I thought Titans were going to win. I said it was going to be a close one. And it kind of was close. I mean, scoreline says it wasn't close. But that didn't really blow out until the very end, and even the Titans scored a try. And just the Warriors' defense was too good. And when I was watching it, I was just looking at the Titans, and I was like, this is something not right. They're not really doing anything particularly wrong, but they're dropping the ball at the wrong times. And they did look a little bit clunky, but I suppose that's expected when you got a whole bunch of new faces. And I said that in my video. Even the Warriors had a bunch of new faces, which I suppose goes against that. But I thought their halves looked really good. Whereas the Titans, there was just nobody standing up. And your Fafita's and your Tinos, the ones who you were expecting them to stand up, they were kind of not really doing too much at all. In fact, Tino was probably one of the worst games I've seen him play. And I only saw little bits and pieces, so I can't imagine what he was like for the rest of the game. I heard not good. But the Warriors, it looked to be good signs from them. Nathan Brown never really rated him as a coach. However, this is good signs. This is definitely good signs. Like I said, the halves are looking good. You got Tuivasa-Sheck at the back there. Vanilla Blake was huge for him. You got Murdoch Masila there. They got a lot of new faces. Even guys like Jed Cartwright looked really good. So maybe they've got a few hidden gems on that side. Might even be a couple good super coach buys there. So keep an eye on the Warriors. But yeah, they might be a smoky for the top 8 base this week. Because the Titans, I thought they were definitely going to get the win. I didn't expect the Warriors to win. But yeah, the Warriors, they won well. The second game was the Sydney Roosters defeating the Manly Warringah Sea Eagles 46-4 to the surprise of absolutely nobody. Maybe some Manly fans. Maybe they thought they'd only lose by like 20 or so. But yeah, I haven't really seen too Manly fans who were surprised by it. Obviously, there's a lot of talk now that Des Hasler's under threat. But I mean, look at that side that they fielded. It was absolutely god-awful. Then you take into account that they're taking on one of the premiership favourites, Sydney Roosters, looking to come out, looking to get revenge on last year, and he definitely started well. I mean, hat-tricks to Brett Morris and James Tedesco. They were just on fire. There's no other way to put it. They were on fire. And Manly, like, it could have been anyone. I think the Roosters wouldn't have beat them. Anyone apart from maybe the Storm this week, and they probably would have absolutely thrashed them. But yeah, Manly, they definitely weren't good. A lot of improvements to be made, but I'm sure they will. When you look at the side, it is a fairly young one, and they've got a lot of improvements, a lot of potential, and you're just going to have to be patient with it, Manly fans. But yeah, the Roosters, they're definitely not a team you want to take on in the first round of the NRL. And if I was a Manly fan, I wouldn't really look too far into it. It's more if they're taking on the other bottom teams, taking on Dragons, taking on someone like that, and if they're getting towed up. Because the Roosters, I mean, there's no shame in getting towed up to the Roosters, let's be honest. The last game of Saturday was the Panthers picking up a 24-0 victory over the North Queensland Cowboys. There is a lot of talking points in this game. Now, this was one that I didn't really get to see, but once again, I saw the highlights, and also I saw the Todd Payten press conference. Now, I was one of the big proponents of the Cowboys being an improved side this year. Definitely didn't look the case, but at the same time, they're taking on Penrith. Penrith were the top side last year, apart from Melbourne, but you're taking the regular season, and this is the regular season, they were easily the best side. It just the final sort of pressure got to them. Now they're coming in round 1, full of hunger, and also have another year experience under their belt, and they're looking to come out and absolutely thrash teams, and that's what they did. Now, they probably could have put a lot more points on by the looks of things. I recall there was a couple of times Charlie Staines went really, really close to scoring, so they definitely could have scored more points. But I think for the Cowboys, they've obviously got a lot more improving to do, and a lot of it comes on Taumalolo, according to Todd Payten. Whether that's warranted, I don't know, but in the little clips that I saw, and even what Todd Payten said, I don't think it was that harsh. Maybe to do it in public, it was quite harsh, but just in terms of what he's saying, I don't think he's necessarily wrong. And just going off Taumalolo's stats, even if he didn't play that many minutes, you'd expect a lot more output from him, especially considering he's the highest paid player, and he's also the most high-profile player, and he's your leader of your forward pack, and I feel like they didn't get enough out of him when he was on the field, let alone having him on the bench. So yeah, it definitely wasn't a good game for Taumalolo, but I mean, it's round 1, you expected them to be a little bit rusty. It's going forward, it's what the Cowboys do. improve? Do they bounce back well, or do they continue getting thrashed? The Panthers, on the other hand, they got the Bulldogs next week. I think they got a pretty good draw coming up. I feel like this has all the makings to be a really, really good season for the Panthers. Now, I think that's quite obvious in the sense that they've got a good side. They've just obviously come off a big win against the Cowboys, and they got the Bulldogs next week. So you could argue that they have a pretty weak start to the season, but at the same time, it gives them time to sort of get into a bit of form before they take on some of those harder sides, and also gives time for some of the newbies to come into the side, like your Charlie Staines, like your Momorowskis and that, to sort of work their way into the side and get a little bit more comfortable. So yeah, I think the Panthers, they're in for a big season this year, starting off with a big win against the Cowboys. I feel like it was expected, but at the same time, whenever you keep a team to nil, it's always a good win. And moving on to Sunday, we had the Canberra Raiders defeating the West Tigers 13-12. Now, in the lead up to this game, this was one of those ones that I looked at and I thought the Tigers are a real chance here. The Raiders, they're sort of, I don't know what to expect from them to start the season. We all know what they're capable of by the end of the season, but are they going to hit the ground running? And that's exactly what they did. Now, I've got to say, Josh Hodgson looked a little bit rusty, but he obviously wasn't bad, but he looked a little bit rusty. But the rest of the side, they were on fire. I thought Tapini looked really good. Papali was a little bit quiet, but the rest of the side, I thought they were outstanding. The Tigers, look, they really got to do something about Leilua. Luciano, really good. Joey, not so good. I think he's detrimental to the side, and I think he's going to lose him a lot more games than he's going to win them. And it's something that I've always said, and it's exactly the reason why the Raiders got rid of him. You could even argue in the grand final, there was an opportunity for them to win it, and Joey Leilua threw it away. Didn't throw it away because he didn't throw the pass. But just on the Raiders, I said before the game, if they were to win this one, it was definitely going to be a good, strong start to the season and sort of get them off on the right foot, because the Tigers, they are going to be a strong side, and I think by the end of the season, we're going to be able to look at this Tigers side and say they're pretty good. Just on the Tigers though, Luke Brooks, I don't know what's going on with him. Obviously, he's had a lot of potential over the years, but he's not this 21, 22-year-old kid who's got a couple more years to get his peak. Like, he is in his peak now, and he's just not delivering. Although he's delivering pretty good goal kicking, but that's about it. Not really offering too much on the field. And just, yeah, for someone who's had so much experience in first grade now, you'd expect him to be firing on all cylinders, and he's just not. And the Tigers definitely need to try and look for other options, in my opinion. I know he's a local junior, and it sucks that it's not worked out, but they need to punt him. They need to get rid of him, because he's just not going to bring any success to him. And hopefully for their sake, they've got someone coming through the grades who can take his spot. Now, moving on to the last game, we had the Cronulla Sharks defeating the St. George Illawarra Dragons 32-18 in a game that I don't feel the score represents the game. Now, I remember at halftime, I had it like they were in my multi, the Sharks, and I was like, yes, we're home. Easy one. This is easy money, this one. And then the Dragons all of a sudden came back really, really quick. Not particularly doing anything too great. I mean, even the Sharks, for their tries, a lot of them were from kicks. It was terrible conditions. A lot of it was just a drop ball from a kick, and then the other person would come in and just dive onto the ball. But that's also what the Dragons did to get back into the game. And when Cody Ramsey went over, not only did he score, but he had the try disallowed. It was brought back due to the new rule changes where they reward it. I was literally like, oh my God, I'm shitting my pants. I'm like, my bet's gone. And then all of a sudden, they call it back, and I was like, you beauty. And then the Sharks went up and literally scored straight off the next set. Now, a big talking point from the game is obviously the Jesse Ramian sin bin, had the swinging arm, definitely deserved it. Mulatalo came over, and I'm pretty certain he threw a punch, at least did something. He's come flying off his wing from the complete opposite side, and this is something that he tends to do a lot. So I think he's got to sort that shit out big time, because he's done it multiple times. I remember in like a reserve grade grand final, he threw punches. You just can't be doing that. He seems too much of a hothead, and it's going to get him in a lot of trouble at some point. And I think they got super lucky that he didn't end up in the sin bin or even get sent off as well, because that could have been really, really bad, especially when the Dragons started coming back. That was sort of when it was happening too. So I think in the end, the Sharks did get quite lucky. Obviously, that try, like the Ramsey no try, was such a momentum turner. But the Sharks, up to that point, they were looking pretty good. They were looking sort of controlled, composed. Townsend was leading them around pretty well. But then it all went to shit. But thankfully for them, thankfully for me, the Sharks ended up bringing it home, running away with it in the end, getting a few little consolation tries in the end. But yeah, the Dragons, they actually surprised me. They weren't absolutely terrible. Obviously, the whole Dufty having to go off wasn't ideal, and then Cody Ramsey getting hurt. But yeah, they weren't as diabolical as I thought they would be. But I don't know if that comes down to the Dragons being good or the Sharks just being bad. Probably a combination. Anyway, guys, that's my review of round one. Leave in the comment section below, what are your thoughts of round one? Were there any upsets? How do you go with your tipping? I'm expecting quite a few people to say that they got 8 out of 8 because they did a Facebook status, and heaps of people commenting on it saying they got 8 out of 8, including my soccer friend Blake, who picked 8 out of 8 despite not really watching the football. So go him. Also, we had it, guys. If you could go ahead and leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you're new around here, that'd be super appreciated. Turn the notification bell as well. It's just really good in terms of growing the channel. Also, the notification means you're not going to miss any of the videos. It's going to be notified immediately that I'm uploading, so go ahead and do that. It'd be very much appreciated. Also, very much appreciated would be a follow on social media. It's on the screen right now. It's Mr. Luke and YT. For the most part, my Facebook's just Mr. Luke, but Snapchat is also Mr. Luke and YT. Same one's on the screen right now. So go ahead and give me a follow, give me a like, do all that sort of stuff. How good is it to have the footy back? I'm so excited for round 2. I'm going to be doing some round 2 previews, do some other videos talking about the NRL, so stay tuned for that. That's where I'm ending this video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.